Thank you for joining us here at Tax, the platform where we try to demystify the sometimes confusing world of international tax. And today we have the honor and the privilege of two very distinguished guests to help us understand international tax for Brazil. And that's Pilar and Rodrigo. Would you guys like to introduce yourself? Ladies first, Pilar.
Oh, hello, everyone. Really nice to be here. I'm a Brazilian tax advisor. I'm also an academic, and I've been working at HHP, that's a Dutch law firm with international cases. I think that's the main thing.
Fantastic. And Rodrigo.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rodrigo. Thanks, Darren, for the invitation to be here. I'm a tax lawyer in Brazil. I'm a tax partner at Mota Fernandes. We are a law firm based in Rio, São Paulo, and Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. I'm also a tax professor here in Brazil. I teach tax law at the court here in Rio de Janeiro. We have a law school at the court, so I teach tax law for those who want to be judges here in Brazil. So basically, I have this experience acting as a tax lawyer and also as a tax professor here.
Fantastic. How is tax residence triggered in Brazil? I'll reverse it now. Start with you, Rodrigo.
Yeah, basically the main concept in Brazil is, as a general rule, we don't tax our nationals. We tax our residents. That's the main idea. So no matter if you are a Brazilian or not, if you are a tax resident in Brazil, you will be taxed. So basically, it's different from other countries where the nationality sometimes play a very important role in this decision to tax. But in Brazil, the main idea is if you are a tax resident in Brazil, you will be taxed here. If you leave Brazil, if you exit Brazil, if you are no longer a tax resident in Brazil, as a general rule, because sometimes you have some exceptions, but as a general rule, you will not be taxed. So I think the main trigger in Brazil is the concept of your residence. If you are a resident or not, nationality is not the main trigger for taxation here in Brazil.
Maybe I can add that to become a resident, you have some different rules. If you stay more than 183 days in general, the other countries have the same rule. If you have some kinds of visa, for example, if you have the resident visa, work visa, and etc. So you have in law, at least it's quite similar with other countries with similar systems. Another thing that's not from the law, but from the interpretation of the law, the tax authorities also comprehend that if you keep in Brazil, center of vital interest in Brazil, even if you left Brazil, you might still be considered a resident in Brazil. That's an interpretation. That's not in the law, and it's not always like that. But you had some cases where the person left Brazil many years ago, didn't trigger the elements to be considered a resident, but kept the center of vital interest in Brazil, and they were considered still residents in Brazil. That can be based in the tax treaties, but sometimes it's crazy interpretation for tax authorities, yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. In some jurisdictions, there's a nuance, there's a difference between tax residence and tax domicile. Does that nuance exist in Brazil, or is it the same? Pilar?
Yes. In our tax code, you have the concept of the domicile, the tax domicile. The rules about the tax domicile are different from the tax residence. Actually, the tax domicile, you can choose it if you don't disrespect some rules that are in the tax code. For example, you cannot choose a tax domicile just to make the tax authorities' life harder. It has to be somehow related where you really live and have your activities, or where the tax authorities can really reach you. So you have rules about how you define your tax domicile. And these rules are, I can say that they have some logic, reliable or relatable with the tax residents, but their rules are different.
Yes, basically, it was what Pilar said, and basically because of our civil law, in our civil law we have a very strong difference between the concept of domicile and the concept of residency. Domicile for civil law in Brazil is your legal place, the place where you develop your legal activities, or for legal purposes where you can be found. So I have one domicile. And you have multiple ways you can face as residents. But that's, from my perspective, that is a very old concept from the civil law. Nowadays, with all the development around the world and all the easy ways you have to move around, from my perspective, I think domicile and residence are concepts. They are almost being the same. In a general perspective, I think in in the civil law regarding centuries ago, it makes sense to have those differences. But I believe that with the world as is it now, and with all the tools you have, those concepts are changing, and they are becoming more and more quite as the same concept. But we still have some differences, as Pilar said. We still have some differences regarding international. I think that we have more differences. I don't know if Pilar agree with me, but I think we have more differences regarding our internal taxation, our taxation here in Brazil, inside Brazil, rather than in the legislation that take cares about international taxation. I think in international taxation, the law that try to regulate international taxation, sometimes they use those concepts as the same concept. But in our internal legislation, internal taxation, yes, we have some differences. But for foreigners, for example, I think that the concepts are quite similar.
I do agree, actually. And I think that leads sometimes for some misunderstandings and also helps foreigners. And I can give you an example. We have a law for small business. And in this law, you have a rule that dictates that if you are a company in your partners is domiciled outside Brazil, you cannot benefit from the law, from this law. So, domiciled. It's the civil law concept. It's the everyday concept. People in normal life will use this concept. Or you can talk about the residence concept. So, if you look into the tax law, it's quite clear, maybe the difference. If you look the international tax law, maybe they are closer. But if you look other statutes and laws, it can be a little bit confusing.
So if you're a 6, 7, or 8-figure investor, entrepreneur, or business owner who needs a tailor-made solution from a qualified team of professionals, we can help you achieve the international lifestyle, the freedom, and even the tax savings you're looking for. Visit us at htj.tax and live that international life.